It is not coming. Bro, network వస్తుంది. నెట్వర్క్ పోయిందా?
మనకి డెస్క్టాప్ రికార్డింగ్ టూల్స్ ఏమైనా ఫ్రీ డెస్క్టాప్ రికార్డింగ్
అర్థం
మనం చేసే రికార్డింగ్ డెస్క్టాప్కి రికార్డింగ్ టూల్ ఏదైనా ఫ్రీ దొరుకుతుంది.
అది దీనిలో మ్యాక్లో బై డిఫాల్ట్ వచ్చేస్తుంది. యాక్చువల్గా క్విక్ టైం ప్లేయర్ అని ఉంటుంది. క్విక్ టైం ప్లేయర్ అని ఉంటుంది, డిఫాల్ట్ ఉంటుంది మ్యాక్. సో నేను ఈవెన్ స్క్రీన్ పైన ఆటోమేటిక్ రికార్డ్ అయిపోతాను. మరి విండోస్కి తెలియదు పర్ఫెక్ట్గా. వెబ్ఎక్స్ కానీ ఛార్జ్ అది ఫ్రీ కాదు. అవునా, ఫార్మాట్లో డిఫరెన్స్ సేవ్ వాడి పేర్లో చూడాలి. కరెక్ట్
కన్వర్ట్ చేసుకోవడానికి డబ్బులు
కరెక్ట్. క్విక్ టైం యూజర్ క్విక్ టైం ప్లేయర్తో మీరు చేయొచ్చు అనమాట. ఒకసారి విండోస్కి వస్తామో చెక్ చేయండి. క్విక్ టైం ప్లేయర్లో అయితే ఉంటుంది బై డిఫాల్ట్. You can direct delete, no problem. Stopping and deleting is same, right? Admin LYNC 1 2 3 stop. Right. So yesterday we completed till okay, that particular website application, right? So we were like trying to integrate with your Jenkins and GitHub, right? So whenever that particular change is happening, it's picking up for every 5 or 10 minutes based upon that schedule, right? So let's see how you can do with the plugins today. We don't talk about any plugins, right? I told you that all your Jenkins is nothing but it's completely based on plugins. All the functionality which I'm getting with Jenkins, right? So if I go to manage Jenkins and if I say manage plugins, right? Just a second, is it recording? It's recording. So all my particular functionality of my Jenkins is actually present here in my plugins. Net I lost. Internet is not working. Wi-Fi button on this. Hello. Hello. Right. Okay. So I will talk about plugins today, right? So whenever I want some extra functionality, right, additional functionality, I'm going with my plugins concept. Read that last again. Okay, it's coming, no problem. Right? So all the particular plugins which are there, we are using currently right now. But let's say I told you like yesterday, we are having some security issues with Jenkins, right? So any particular user we are creating, he's going and able to access all the other projects as well. Now we want some security based on some pattern, or let's say some role based, or let's say some project based, right? So for that, you don't have by default that functionality with the Jenkins, right? I told you that these plugins will give you additional functionality to your Jenkins setup, right? So when you are doing that, let's say I'll go to the security actually. I'll say manage Jenkins. I'll say configure a global security. And currently you can see here it says enable security, and it says logged in users can do anything here. If you say anyone can do anything, right, you don't need any login access or nothing. Everyone can go and access that particular Jenkins over there. You don't even need login access. But what I want is here, like I need some extra additional security, right? To do that, we have a plugin called role based strategy in Jenkins. So if I go here and if I say role based strategy plugin, right, and if you go to this, it is very slow. Okay. And it says this particular plugin will add a new roles based upon your user settings and permissions. So whenever I want extra security for my Jenkins, right, I'll be going and setting up this particular plugin called role-based strategy plugin, right? So actually I have installed all the SCM and everything, right? So where I'm getting it from actually, if I say manage Jenkins, and if I go for manage plugins, right? If you see, you already installed some plugins when you are setting up your Jenkins. So that is where actually your SCM tools, right, your Git plugin, actually all the functionality which you are getting right now is nothing but the plugins which we installed at the time of setup. But now you want some new particular settings, right? So let's say whenever you want to install new plugins, right, go to available plugins and search for that particular plugin name. So what is the plugin I want to use? Role based authorization strategy, right? This particular plugin will give you additional functionality. Now if you see, let me copy it up, and so if I say manage Jenkins and if I say configure global security, now you see how many options do I have got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. A metric based, project based. But I need something which is more good than these two basic settings. Right? So currently I'm having only these 5 settings. Now once I install that particular plugin, right, it will give you additional security over there. Right? So if I go here and if I say install without restart, it says the plugin was successfully installed. And if I go to this page right now and if I do a refresh, you see role based strategy. I got some new functionality right now and I'll choose this particular setting. So earlier it says logged in users can do anything, but now I'm going with a role based strategy, right? And I'll say, so what I'll do is like before that I'll use the same particular thing, what is the default setting which we got, and I'll create some multiple users. So I want to show you how it works with the user settings, right? So let's say I'll go to manage Jenkins, I'll say manage users. So yesterday we created a user called developer1. Today we'll create multiple users, right? Something like, let's say I'll use a create user and let's say developer2, right? And some password. Let me be the same password for him as well. So I'll say developer2 and this is why developer2 and let's say so currently I have 3 users and let me go and create one more user called something like tester. So totally I have 4 users with me, in which 2 are developers, one is admin, one is tester. Now I want my admin to have all the privileges. He should access my entire Jenkins. Whereas for developer 1 and developer 2, I only want the access, let's say only some development projects. My tester should have only test project access. Alright? Making sense? In that way, I went to want. Now, if I say log out and if I go with something like tester1, yes, I can go and access everything here, isn't it? I can create jobs, I can do everything here right now, right? But I don't want this kind of functionality. Now, this particular person can go and do lots of things here, right? He can go and manage my Jenkins, he can do everything here. But I don't want this kind of functionality for my developers and testers. Only admin should be able to do that. managing my Jenkins, right? So what I did, I created 4 users. Now I'll go to that role based strategy plugin and I implement some new features over there, so that only project level access or user level access should be given to the users, right? So I'll go with my admin user again. Now I'm currently here. So what I'll do is like, let me go to my manage Jenkins. So let me create some projects actually. So let's say I'll give something like dev project. So I'll not do anything, just like I'll just keep it. If not, I'll just put one particular thing here. Let's say I'll give some echo here, right? Dev job success. So whenever this particular job runs, it says dev job is running successfully. And similarly, I'll implement one more project here. So I'll say something like test projects. And I'll say here, I'll be going up and I'll be saying test job is running successfully. So I'm currently having 2 jobs. One is dev and one is testing job. And based upon my role, I should be able to get the access over there. Alright. So what is the first thing I need to do? I need to configure those settings for my role-based strategy. Right. So always sure whenever you are working with security, right? You always go to the global security in your Jenkins. So you see, you have configure a global security. Here, right, I'll say a role based strategy and I'll save the settings right now. Now I'll go and create some roles. Based upon those roles, they should be able to access my Jenkins. I mean, like, I'll create some employee roles like that. Then I'll create something like a developer role and tester role, and I'll assign roles based upon my users, right? So what I'll do is like, so what are the users I have? So let me check the users. Okay, these are the list of users, and you see here there is something called like manage and assign roles. So this particular setting you'll not get it by default. So once you install that role based strategy plugin, right, then only you'll be able to get these permissions. So before, I mean, like, before installing that particular, what do you say, that role-based strategy plugin, I don't have all these options, saying manage roles or authorization plugins. Now I'll go and it says handle permissions by creating roles and assigning them to groups or users, right? So I'll go to manage and assign roles. Now you see here you got manage roles. You see currently you are having only admin there. Now you want to create other particular roles. Yes, you can go and create it over there. Now let's say I'll create one more role called something like an employee role. Right? So earlier I was only having admin, and see, admin can do everything. Everything is checked for him. Right? Now what I'll do is like, I'll create a role called employees. In that employees I can create groups like developers and testers. Based upon that I want to give the permission criteria. Right? Now what I'll do is like, let me add the role called employee. Now what you want the access to be employee. So what all access you want to give to the employee. So let's say he should be only able to read, right? And let's say maybe like he should be able to view as well. So let's say I want this particular person to view as well. So I'll say he can go view, read and create. Let's say even configure. Only the view access, that's it. He can view and he can read. That is what all the access I want to give for employee role, not the admin. Admin by default he has all the access, right? And now you see these are project level based. Now if you want to add roles based on projects, Making sense? So let's say I have got a project called dev project. Then I got a project called test projects. Now I want to set in such a way that only the people who are developers should be able to see the development projects. And only people from testing background should be able to see the text projects. Admin should be able to see everything. Right? So what I'll do is like I'll put some role here. So let's say I'll add a role like what I want to add something like dev, a role called a developer. So let's say DEVELOPER. I'm going with a role called developer. And what is the pattern you want to give him? So let's say dev star, if not dev dot star. Anything that is beginning with dev, developers can go and access it. Right? And I'll say I got my developer role and he got dev dot star. And similarly, I want to go with tester role. And I'll say dot star. Now you got two things. Now how you want to give settings to them? So let's say when a job which starts with dev, let's say developer should have all the access. So they should be able to build, and even for testers, if they can see anything with testing, right, they should be able to do everything on test related projects. Right? So now what we did, we created a employee role. On project level based, we created two roles: developers, testers. And developers, we have given a pattern called dev.star, so that any project that is starting with dev, they will be able to access it. Anything which is starting with test, testers should be able to access it. Right? So let me go and save these changes. Right? You have went and assigned the roles now. Now let's go and assign roles for your users. Right? You got users. Now if you go to the assign roles, you see you got employees, right? You got developers and testers. So let's say how many users I got? Three users, right? Apart from, I mean, like developer 1, developer 2, tester 1. So I got multiple users over there. So I'll go and add those users here. So what is the first user? developer 1. And I got developer 2 user. Then I got tester 1 as well. Now all of these are admins or employees, right? So admin should get the admin access. But whereas my developer 1, developer 2 and tester, they should have only employee access. And in that, let's say who are developers and who are these kind of guys, I mean like testers. So how many users I got here? The same thing, right? So I need to go and set up my developer 1, I'll say developer 2 and tester 1. Now who is developer? These two guys are my developers. And who is your tester? This guy is your tester. Making sense? So just like we are going and assigning roles based upon the project types. And I'll say save. So once that is done, right? Now we need to check whether that particular thing is working or not. If it works, fine. If not, we need to come and troubleshoot if any issue is there here in this particular settings of roles actually. Now it says okay, it was went. Now yes, I can see everything. And let me create one more project apart from dev and this particular thing. So let's say I'll create some sample job. Then it is let's yeah. So let's say I'm creating something like a sample and I'll say save it up. And so I can see all because I'm logged in like an admin user. So let me log out now. And what is the one role we got? Developer 1, DEVE. Yes, I got developer 1, and I'll go with the same particular access. Now if I see, I can only see development related jobs. And you see, can I see all those options like earlier? All the access has is he can run the jobs, that's it. He cannot do anything else. He cannot work on other jobs, basically, testing jobs, these jobs. But whereas related to this job, yes, he can go and do anything he wants. Making sense? Now, if I go and see that particular output, yes, it says your development job is successful. Right? I can only see dev job. Similarly, if I go and if I check with my tester, what is the I think like I forgot that TST tester one. I think like I have forgotten the information. Let's go to tester one. Okay, let me log in like admin first. Got manage Jenkins. I got manage users. My tester one. Configure password. Let's say. And you can see I got only test access projects, right? So by default Jenkins does not have this kind of functionality. How we are getting this functionality? With the help of role based strategy plugin. So I mean, like, you understood it. I told you in the beginning itself, Jenkins does not do anything really to speak. All its particular functionality comes from plugins. If you have appropriate plugin, right, you can do lots of work over there. Now let's say if you are using something like AWS and you have built your artifacts. Generally what we are doing once you are building your artifacts, where we are sending them actually? Nexus. Now instead of Nexus, you can use something like S3 buckets as well. In Amazon we got S3 buckets, storage buckets simply. You can store all these artifacts instead of storing into Nexus. If you want, you can store them in your Nexus as well. Sorry, in your S3 buckets. So it depends. Now if you want that kind of functionality, where you are going? You are going to your again. So this is tester one. Okay, let me go to my admin, and I'm still in tester one. Yep. Yes. Now if I want at that particular functionality, right, what I'll do is like I'll just go to my manage Jenkins and I'll say manage plugins. I'll say install are available and I'll say S3 search. You see, Amazon S3 publisher plugin. You install it and you'll get the ability to send all your artifacts through S3 buckets. So all these functionalities by default they are not there with your Jenkins. You need to always go and do setup with your plugins. So if you are working with Jenkins, you need to understand more about plugins. That is very, very important. Now by default, I don't have any functionality. Now let's say if I want to do something like uh, Nexus deployment. Do I have any settings over there to go and deploy it into Nexus? No. So if I want that, then I'll use a Nexus artifact uploader plugin. If I want to do source code analysis, right? Let's say I want to publish my HTML reports. I have something called like HTML it is publisher. So like this, when you are working with all your Jenkins projects, I mean like when you are trying to set up that CI/CD process, right? In that process, you will use multiple plugins with respect to the plugins. I mean like not plugins, with the type of tools which you used in your manual setup. In your manual setup, we have seen all these tools, right? I mean like Nexus, SonarQube, HTML document, MVN site, right? All that we did because you want to get that particular process set up. Now if you want to automate it, right, then Jenkins will do it with the help of plugins, right? Making sense? Now if you want any additional functionality, what would be your first task? We need to check whether that plugin is there or not first. If it's there, how to install it. After installing, how you are going to do the configuration. Installing is very simple, right? You'll just click on the particular thing, install is done. But configuration is important. See, once I install road-based plugin, I need to do a lots of configuration, right? When you are working with your plugins, that's all you need to do. Installing it, configuring it, and getting that additional functionality with that plugins, right? Fine. Is it good? I mean like you understood, right, why we are using that particular security rule-based strategy. So whenever someone asks how you are going to secure your Jenkins, what do you need to do? Right, you got plugins. Actually you got already built-in plugins, something like, now if I go here, you see, is this the only plugin which I can work with? No, right? I got multiple plugins there. I mean like multiple options over there. If you say manage your global security, you already got like project based matrix authorization, matrix based security, but it's not as good as your role based strategy. By using role based, you can segregate according to users and project levels, which is much better when compared to this kind of only logged in users can do anything or matrix based security, right? And similarly, now let's say one more particular aspect. Now, where is this builds happening actually? So yesterday we built our what do you say, that website test. So where was the build happening actually? GitHub. No, build is not happening GitHub, right? Where is the build happening? In the server. Which server? Right, in my Google Cloud server. So in whichever the machine I have set up that Jenkins, that is where actually my builds are happening. But generally, now let's say these are small projects. Imagine you are having around 50 projects going on. If all are building at same time, what is the problem? CPU utilization will go high, RAM will be utilized very much, right? All the problems would occur for your Jenkins administration, right? So this server would be affected. If you run your jobs here, actually you are running your jobs here, right? It means nothing but in the back end you are using this server, right? Yesterday we have given the login access to Jenkins, right? We went to what is the home directory of Jenkins? Where lib Jenkins, right? That's the actual directory. So in that you are having your jobs, workspace, and all those locations, right? So basically what's happening? Disk space is utilized on this machine only. RAM is being utilized on this machine itself. Processes is also being utilized from this machine itself. If there are multiple tasks going on this machine would crash. If this machine crashes, what happens? Sorry? All the jobs would be done, right? I mean, like all the particular process, I mean, like whatever the, what do you say, projects which are there in your organization, everything would be done. Everything would be stopped. All the CI/CD process would be stopped there itself. That's the reason why generally we do something called like master and slave configuration in real time. So what you do is like you will make your Jenkins, this particular machine, as a master. Master in the sense only administrative tasks. You will say run, start, creating jobs, creating users, installing plugins. That's it. But when you build the job, so building the job is only taking the process, right? When you build the job, then only it's bringing the new changes from GitHub, taking some memory, using some RAM process, I mean like RAM power, then it is using some CPU power over there. But if you build those jobs on other machines, making sense? I mean like all your processing power is done on other machines. Whereas scheduling the jobs, starting the jobs, creating the jobs, everything is going to be done on this particular Jenkins machine, your master. So generally we call it like master slave configuration. Your master, you'll only do administrative tasks. And whereas in that particular node machines, you'll be only doing processing. Nodes are nothing but slaves, slave machines. So what I'll do is like, let's say you are having around, uh, let's say currently you are having around 5 machines. Right? These are your 5 machines. So generally in real time, how it will like, they will call like dev and QA environments, right? Let's say this is the part of my dev. These are QA and QA. This is my Jenkins master. I have defined 2 jobs. One job would run your, let's say it is fetching from GitHub and it is doing MBN, let's say compile. So compile what it does, it will compile the projects. So at that time what is needed? Memory is needed, CPU is needed, RAM, basically all the processing power is needed. Now, if I don't have this kind of environment, right, all the load is on this machine, right? Now what I do is like, here I'll define one development job. When I run this would go and do task on this. Now what happens? All my CPU, RAM, will be utilized here. And if I run a QA job, it would affect these machines. Now there is no load here, right? The load you are only putting is running the job, that's it. So you need to make sure one thing here. Now if you are configuring your nodes, I mean like your slaves, you need to make sure you need to have appropriate applications for that. Now let's say this project which you are doing this dev job, right? It is actually built on Java based plus Maven. Now in this dev machines what you need to have? Java should be there. And where is code coming from? Now imagine these are QA machines. Now dev and QA are different environments, right? Apart from all this, so in your QA also you have Java. Apart from this, what you need in your QA, let's say something like Jenkins, Selenium, let's say any other features. Right? These are the NG test framework, sorry, test NG. All these are required. So whenever you are doing some tasks on these machines, make sure that these applications are already set up on the build machines. So if you are having only this much infrastructure, it's very easy to manage. Let's say 100 dev machines, where you should have Java, Maven and Git set up. Let's say 50 QA machines, where all this is set up. Now here the task is very huge, right? So you are creating 50 servers, you are logging into each and every specific server, you are installing these applications. So basically creation and installation of all this can be automated with the help of Chef, right? So I can use Chef here in our morning task. What I can do, I can write a cookbook. Such that it goes and installs Java package, Maven, Git. And let's say if you want to check something like comments, I'll write one time that cookbook. I'll add it to 100 times. Right? So making sense actually why we are using this master and slave configuration. So whenever you want to do some work, you want to completely do it distributed. So generally these are called distributed builds. So what are distributed builds now? The builds which are happening on remote machines, distributed machines, right? So that this environment can be with you, can be with client, can be with other organization or on the cloud. All you need is that processing capacity and power. You will take it, you will make it one of the slave for your master. So when you are doing this master and slave configuration, right? Every machine should have Java to be installed. That is mandatory. Any machine you want to attach to your Jenkins, right? Because Jenkins, how it's processing actually through Java. All the communications happen through Java. So whenever you set up your machines, right, you will first make the handshake between these machines. What is handshake? Both are communicating. Let's say if my Jenkins wants to do some task on this machine, Jenkins should be able to log into this machine to do the task. Right? So any particular machine we are creating, we should do handshake and we need to make sure we install Java in those machines. Right? So once you are able to do this, then we can go and do the builds distributed. Any machine you want. Let's say now you wrote a new job. Let's say demo 5. When you say build, you can say on which machine you can build. It's up to your choice. You have build triggers. I told you that in that build trigger there is something called run remotely on some particular particular nodes. You can go ahead and do like this. Right? So it's up to you. It can be Windows, it can be Unix, it can be Linux. All it needs is like the processing capacity and Java to be installed. Once it's there, it runs the jobs. That's it. It can be any machine as such. OS dependency. OS dependency no. So all you need is like Java to be installed on that machine. Make handshake between the machines. So generally in real time also you have your Windows 2012 or 2016 servers. You have them. You need to set up Java and then you go and install those machines. Once you set up Java, you can go and install all the particular process. Right? So maybe what we'll do is like it's almost 6:10. So maybe like tomorrow we'll see that master and slave configuration because it takes at least like half an hour to make handshake and we need to create multiple machines as well. At least 3-4 machines we need to create those machines as well. I think today we mostly saw everything on theoretical only, right? So tomorrow it will be like more of practical. I think like theory is done, right? There is no more theory to go with the Jenkins. So from tomorrow we'll see like how we can go and work with multiple kinds of plugins, right? Let's say we'll go ahead and do this master and save configurations. We'll initiate that GitHub webhook triggers. We'll add Maven projects, how they behave, right? Tomorrow we'll say all those particular concepts. Maybe tomorrow we'll start with that master slave configuration, right? Yeah, maybe from afternoon, maybe from 2 o'clock, 2 to 6 o'clock, 6:30. I mean, like, till by two, directly versus